So I think we've heard, it's very clear that cutting the deficit and reducing government spending is what we've got to look forward to, but it's sometimes be quite abstract what exactly that means. And Paul alluded to some of the ways in which you might see our sort of what the society will change as a result of the reduction in the deficit. But I thought it would be interesting to hear how people think that will really be reflected both in society and in terms of the policies that we're going to see. I mean, David, you probably as close, as good a sense of what the different parties' views are or what we should do as anybody. But what is it going to mean for our audience that we're going to, when we start cutting the deficit, and how do the different parties differ on these issues?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say, I take completely the opposite view to Paul on our position vis-à-vis Greece, because I think the problem for Greece is in fact that it's in the euro and it's lost 20-25% competitiveness over the past 10 years and would be facing a long-term economic crisis even if it didn't have the fiscal crisis, and has government debt about twice the size of the UK. So I think there's no comparison for all sorts of reasons, including our ability to sell our debt. And people get a bit confused about this thing. I mean, there are two types of debt. There's domestic debt, which is what the government has, and there's foreign debt. We have domestic debt, which is mainly held by people in this country, or not people, but institutions in this country, pension funds, the banks increasingly. So there is a difference there between that and Greece. But in terms of the sort of things that have to happen or that will happen, now, I mean, one of the useful things is that when if you embark on a process of cutting public spending after public spending has been held down already, then that's quite tough. But in 10 pretty exceptional years of public spending growth, a lot of fat has been created. Now, people here who work in the public sector may disagree with this, but if you look at the growth in public spending we've seen, and in many cases, a doubling or more in public spending, even a doubling in real terms in some cases, then a lot of that has gone into public sector pay. A lot of that has gone into public sector inflation. It does seem, when the numbers are done properly, that public sector efficiency is a lot less than private sector efficiency and productivity. So there are some gains that can be made without seriously cutting into what people want and appreciate. But having said that, I mean, there clearly will be cuts in public sector employment, and we've seen that before. We saw it in the 1990s, from a peak in around about 1991 to the trough in 1998. We saw public sector employment come down from 5.8 million to 5.1 million. Now it's gone back all the way up again, and you see that in the way public services are delivered. You see it in, for example, the number of classroom assistants in primary schools. Quite often, a primary school class will have 2 or 3 assistants along with a teacher. A lot of those people will not be employed in the future. The great expansion of public sector employment, some of that will have to be reversed, as well as quite a lot of restraint in terms of public sector pay. But that won't do it all. There will be things that government does which it won't be able to do anymore. One of the lessons we've had is that the tax base that we thought we had, we don't have anymore. It was inflated by a lot of earnings from the financial sector, an exceptional period of growth of corporate earnings and so on. The tax base is a lot smaller than we thought it was, so public spending levels have to come down in line with that, and some of that will hit real services.
Paul, you said that you thought that certain benefits had to go. Cutting benefits during a recession. What sort of things are you thinking of?
We have to look at things which cut spending in the future, basically. They cut now, but they commit to long-term future cuts. And that's the attraction of benefits. If you take the political pain now and you lock yourself in, it's better even than cutting public sector employment, because that's so reversible, same as salaries. But raising the retirement age for the public sector seems to me a no-brainer. I'm going to retire when I'm 67. I don't see why all public servants should retire when they're 67. That would be a big improvement in fiscally. So that would be one area. Benefits the Dutch learned, and this is an area which sounds really insensitive, but the Dutch learned the hard way that incapacity benefits, disability benefits, just produce huge numbers of people who classify themselves as disabled. I think at one stage, 1/6 of the entire Dutch population managed to classify themselves as disabled. And so, if you think about it, so much work nowadays is non-physical. Physical disability really doesn't seem to be an excuse for not being in the labour force. So we need to get much tougher on the sort of benefits entitlements. And these are painful, isn't it? So let me go back to the Greek analogy, which, of course, in one sense, let me say I agree with you on the euro. What I meant by the euro fund, not having the comfort like in the euro, is the Germans are not going to lend us any money. In the end, they're probably going to bail out Greece, you know. Yes. What is a devaluation? We've heavily devalued, right? And that is classic beggar-my-neighbour policy. And this is what happened in the 1930s. And so Britain, good citizen that we are, the saving grace in economic policy is our beggar-my-neighbour strategy of dumping our recession onto the euro, of the euros. So that's what it actually means, is we pull the lever of, say, of beggar-my-neighbour policies by devaluing heavily. We've actually got, I think, the highest share of public expenditure to GDP now in Europe. I think that's right. I think we're the only country, so we're heading over 50%. Okay, so France has got a much higher revenue side. If I just reinforce what you said about the unsustainable nature of revenues, there was actually a sort of triple unsustainability in our revenue stream. There was the financial boom, there was the property boom, which drove huge revenues, and there was the oil boom, where an oil economy. We're actually an oil economy in the late stages. The other oil economy of Europe, North Africa, ran such a big fiscal surplus that it completely eliminated its debt. We ran the biggest fiscal deficit in Europe. And can I just raise one other issue which is that, to my mind, the big nightmare down the pipe is not the fiscal, it's the financial. The financial system blew up. That's what caused the rest of the crisis. And we've not done anything about it. Now, and when I say we, that's the international response has been negligible. Now, again, we bear a heavy responsibility for that because we won the race to the bottom in fiscal deregulation, in financial deregulation. We know we won the race to the bottom because that's why the financial sector shifted from New York to London. So there's no question we won the race to the bottom. Right? So responsibility rests with what we did in fiscal deregulation. We see that, incidentally, with the Lehman Brothers' latest revelation that they couldn't get their $50 billion of deceit through the New York regulations, so they did it on the British books instead.